Hello. We have two stories today. We start off our first story with a question. Have you ever heard of the saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure? Well, this story couldn't be a better example, as one sly businessman thinks he'll outsmart a young tech wizard, but the only thing he does is trap himself into trading a fortune for his trash. But don't worry, while he might be sly, he's no slimeball, so this one has a happy ending. Story 1. I have always been interested in electronics and did a lot of studying on my own, and I was very good at buying things at swap meets and repairing them and reselling them as a teen. My first real paying job, a friend of my mom knew a guy who ran a place that supplied answering machines to businesses. They were new tech back at that point in time. She said he was desperate for someone who could fix them, as he had ones with issues spilling over the shelves. So I went to see him. It was an interesting meeting. A middle-aged businessman and me, I was, 15 or so. We kind of eye each other and he asks me if I can fix them. I was pretty sure I could, and when he pulled out the service manuals for them, he had a couple that were based on the same base. I was quite sure. So he asks me what I wanted an hour, and I was used to getting $3 an hour for watching the kiddo next door on occasion, so I asked for that. He pondered that for a minute and made me an offer I could not refuse. $10, cash for each one I fix. I quickly agreed, and agreed to stop by after school the next day with my tools to dig in. The next day I show up and he takes me in the back, and sure enough, he has a couple big sets of industrial shelves overflowing with the things. I start pulling them off and looking at them. He gives me a smile and drifts off and leaves me to it. I quickly discovered this guy had no tech skills whatsoever. None. Nada. Most of them had a brainlessly simple problem. The outgoing message was kept on a big loose loop of tape with a metallic splice at the end beginning that went past two posts. That told the thing the tape had went all the way around and to stop and turn on the cassette recorder for the incoming message. The splices in the post got dirty and did not make good contact, and the tape would just go on forever. About 3 minutes with some alcohol and a Q-tip cleaning those parts as well as the other things in the tape path not only had them going again, but sounding like new. I cleaned the front panels up with some spray cleaner and hit the wooden cases with some lemon pledge, and they would look like new. I spent more time carefully coiling up the power cords than repairing them. But when I was done, they looked and sounded like new. The owner came back to check on me a couple hours later to see if I was going to be able to crank one out for him that night. I pointed to a pile of 5 or so and told him to check them out. His eyes just about popped out of his head. I got near 10 done a night for a while. It did slow down a bit once I got the easy ones knocked out, but I just kept picking the low-hanging fruit and learning more and more about them, and getting deeper and deeper into them. He also had units coming in all the time, so I did still have some easy ones mixed in with a bunch. I thought he was going to soil himself when we settled up at the end of the first week. I had spent like 3 afternoons there and got near 30 of them fixed. It was a really good payday. He was not super happy with our agreement, but he had proposed it, and he had someone who was blazing through getting them fixed, so he was cornered into honoring it. It was not lost on him that he could have been paying me like $12 a night, and I would have been happy with that, but he thought he would get the better of me. In the comments, Remarkable Intern said, "Honestly, this sounds like a win-win, just the owner was too dumb to see it. If he's offering $10 per machine, he's surely going to have budgeted that based on making well over $10 per repair from his customers. Churning through them should have built him a great little line of business working like that." TFC Bagels said, "There's a lot of backlash for the manager who upheld his agreement. Seems like a good guy to me." Stone Mountain replied, "Yep, he made a deal and stuck with it. I am sure he still made money, just less than he originally thought he would make." Bear with me as I nerd out a bit on this one. I just had to do some digging. Answering machines came onto the market in the 70s, but were in less than 10% of US homes until the restructuring of AT&T in the mid-80s, which is when they became way more affordable at about $120 a piece. Starting wage back then was about $3 an hour. Cece, why do I care? Well, I'm not really sure, but I was curious and just couldn't help myself. Everyone in this story is just lovely. Nobody was trying to screw anyone over, and according to my research, it seems like everyone was a winner. Also, there is something so lovely about saving items from the junkyard, fixing them up, and finding them a new home. And the best repair shops have magenta walls. Our second story takes to the road in a meat delivery themed wild ride, so buckle up. And then unbuckle again right away because this truck ain't going anywhere. Which is a pretty big problem as far as delivery trucks go. One store owner decides to horse around and finds out that being number one isn't always the be-all and end-all. Story 2. After I left active duty service, serving on board a ship, all I wanted to do is drive. So in 1999, I got a driving job delivering meat in Southern California. It was a tough job. Dealing with traffic and my schedule was always tight with 16 to 20 deliveries each day to local markets. I was mostly given inner-city routes with markets with limited space for mid-sized delivery trucks. One of my weekly stops was a small market owned and run by an Iraqi immigrant. I will call him Ali. Ali was always scheduled to be my 5th or 6th stop and would always complain to me. He would complain about why I would show up that late after 9 a.m. each time. He said he wanted to be the first one of the day. I told him I knew he opened each day after 8 a.m. each weekday and that I start my route at about 6:15 a.m. Plus, I don't schedule my route. If he wanted to make sure he was the first delivery of the day, he would have to call Steve, our delivery route supervisor. Ali, in fact, called Steve, because the very next week I received special instructions that read, "Make sure Ali's Market is your first delivery of the day." I had my normal amount of stops that day, about 18, and I knew they all will be pushed back at least 2 hours because I knew Ali won't open until 8 a.m. Also, he will not open the rear door until an hour later. The rear door was for deliveries and trash bin access. I began driving at my usual time. I arrived at Ali's Market 15 minutes later. Ali's Market is closed. I had my orders. I will make sure Ali's Market is the first one of the day. I park and wait. 8 a.m. came and Ali shows up. He drives his old Benz around the back of my truck and parks and walks inside through the back door. I wait for him to open the front and he ignores me. He was busy pretending to supervise the cashier, intentionally ignoring me. So I walk to the meat counter at the back. The guy tells me he was not allowed to take deliveries, that I had to wait for Mr. Ali. At this point, I could have gone to make 2 or 3 deliveries and then return, but I had my very specific order. As I was walking towards the front to exit the market, I grabbed a newspaper, paid for it. Then I told Ali, who was just standing there looking at me, "Let me know when you're ready to take your order. You know where I parked." Ali didn't say a word. He was apparently taking revenge for all these years for his small city market not being the number one priority of my particular meat distributor. A meat distributor who delivered beef, pork, chicken, cheese, and other refrigerated products from over 12 distribution points throughout the United States. Steve arrived to his desk right after 10 a.m. The first thing he saw on his computer screen was an alert of my truck sitting inert for 4 hours. He called me all in a rage, demanding I explain to him why my truck was sitting for all that time. I explained that I was following his order to make sure I delivered to Ali's Market first. Steve hung up and called Ali. Whatever Steve told Ali made Ali get his whiny rear out of his junky little market and take delivery of his meat order, about 14 boxes of product. I then began to rush through the rest of my stops, not wasting time at all, and at the end of my day, I was the last driver back to the warehouse. I got an extra $80 on overtime because Ali cried for not being the first delivery of the day. I never returned to see Ali again. Apparently, we dropped his whiny butt as a customer. In the comments, large client said, "Dream ending." OP stopped at Ali's store and dropped off the entire order at 6:15, leaving everything to sit outside for 2 hours until Ali arrived at 8. Local cats and dogs ravaged the meat. Ali complains, then Steve reinforces, "You wanted to be the first stop, and you were." Pointing out OP's wrong spelling of whiny as whinny, throughout the story, Scary said, "Whinny is the sound horses make. Whiny is the sound humans make." Monotenagent replied, "Given the horses behind he was being." Mulan is a Bam F added, "Whinnying usually comes from the other end of the horse, though." What a classic example of mistaking a logical thing for disrespect. As if OP and his employer were deliberately trying to cut Ali down by delivering to him after his open time. My goodness. The fact that he made OP wait is redonkulous. I would have yelled, "Get your rump out here. I got meat to deliver." And meat deliveries are important because, as Fran Lebowitz quipped, Vegetables are interesting, but lack a sense of purpose when unaccompanied by a good cut of meat. But I can't possibly end on such a cultured note, and with the recent move, I need comments. So take a stab at who said this. Good drink, good meat, good God, let's eat. And that's it for today. Until next time, shine bright, Starlight.
Yahoo!
If you've enjoyed the story and would like to hear more, consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Thanks, and bye for now.